The bracelet is tiny, barely 2 inches long, faded pink plastic with smudged black ink that has almost disappeared over 43 years. It sits in the palm of a woman who is shaking so hard she can barely stand. She's not on stage. She is in the audience. Row 4, seat 7, and she is holding up this tiny hospital bracelet like it is the most precious thing in the world. Because it is. Oprah sees it from the stage. At first, she does not understand what she is looking at. She squints against the studio lights. She takes a step forward, and then she reads the name on the bracelet. Her hand flies to her chest. Her knees buckle. She grabs the arm of her chair to steady herself. The guest on stage stops talking. The audience goes silent. 400 people watch as Oprah Winfrey, the most composed woman in television, completely loses control. That name, Oprah, whispers. Her voice is barely audible. Where did you get that bracelet? The woman in row 4 is crying too hard to answer. She just holds up the bracelet higher and mouths 2 words. My daughter. Oprah's face crumbles. Because Oprah knows something that no one else in this room knows. She knows whose bracelet that is. She knows what happened 43 years ago. She knows the secret she has carried her entire adult life. And that secret is about to be revealed to the entire world. How do we get here? Rewind 108 minutes. The morning had begun with an anniversary. Today's show was a celebration. 40 years of the Oprah Winfrey Show. A retrospective episode featuring clips from historic moments, surprise messages from famous guests, and a live studio audience filled with loyal fans who had been watching since the beginning. It was supposed to be a victory lap, a celebration of legacy, a joyful look back at 4 decades of groundbreaking television. The audience had been specially selected. Longtime viewers who had written letters describing how the show had changed their lives. Cancer survivors who had found hope through an episode. Couples who had met at Oprah events. Teachers who had used show segments in their classrooms. Every person in that studio had a story. But one person had a story that would eclipse them all. Her name was Diane Foster. She was 61 years old. She had traveled from a small town in Wisconsin. She had been selected through the lottery system using her married name. No one on the production team knew her maiden name. No one knew her connection to Oprah. No one knew what she carried in her purse. Diane had been waiting for this moment for 27 years. Ever since she first saw Oprah on television and felt something she could not explain. A recognition, a pull, a sense that this famous woman was connected to her in a way that went beyond admiration. It had taken her 5 years to gather the courage to search for the truth. It had taken her another 3 years to find it. And it had taken her 19 more years to decide what to do with it. Now she was here, row 4, seat 7, with a faded hospital bracelet in her purse, and a truth that would change everything. Subscribe and leave a comment, because the most powerful part of this story is still ahead. The show began at 10:45 a.m. Oprah walked onto the stage to thunderous applause. She was radiant, emotional, grateful. She talked about the journey, the struggles, the triumphs, the moments that had defined her career. She introduced video packages. She welcomed surprise guests via satellite. She laughed. She cried. She thanked everyone who had been part of the journey. The first hour went exactly as planned. The audience laughed at the right moments. They applauded at the right cues. They wiped their eyes during the emotional retrospectives. Everything was perfect. And then the second hour began. Oprah had planned to use this hour for audience interactions. She would walk through the crowd with a microphone, asking people to share their memories of the show. She started in the back rows. She worked her way forward. She heard stories that made her smile, stories that made her laugh, stories that made her grateful for 40 years of connection with these beautiful people. She reached row 7, then row 6, then row 5, and then row 4. She approached seat 7. Diane Foster sat there with her hands folded in her lap. She looked calm, but inside, she was trembling. This was the moment she had waited 27 years for. Oprah extended the microphone. Tell me, she said with her famous warm smile. What has this show meant to you? Diane opened her mouth, but no words came out. Instead, her hand moved to her purse. She opened it. She reached inside. and she pulled out the hospital bracelet. Oprah saw the faded pink plastic. She saw the smudged black ink. She saw the name, and the world stopped. Behind the scenes, Oprah made a decision that defied every producer's expectation. She did not continue with the audience walkthrough. She did not move to the next person. She did not pretend she had not seen what she had just seen. Instead, she turned off her microphone. She looked at Diane, and she spoke in a voice so low that only Diane could hear. "Where did you get that?" Diane's tears were flowing freely now. "It was mine," she whispered back. "When I was born, in 1968, in Milwaukee." Oprah closed her eyes. The year hit her like a physical blow. Milwaukee, the year she had given birth. The city where it happened. The secret she had carried for 43 years. The baby girl she had lost. "Come with me," Oprah said. She took Diane's hand. She led her out of the row. She walked her toward the stage. 400 people watched in confusion. The producers spoke frantically into their headsets. No one knew what was happening. No one except Oprah and Diane, and the truth that was finally about to be spoken. This is the moment no one in the studio and no one watching at home ever saw coming. Oprah helped Diane onto the stage. She guided her to the interview chairs. They sat down. Oprah took the bracelet from Diane's hands. She held it up to the light. The name was almost illegible now. For decades of time had nearly erased it. But Oprah could still read it. Baby girl Winfrey. The name that had been given to her daughter. The daughter she had given birth to at 14 years old. The daughter who had died shortly after birth. Or so she had been told. Oprah looked at Diane. "They told me you died," she said. Her voice was barely a whisper. "They told me you did not survive." Diane shook her head. "I survived," she said. "I was adopted 3 days later. By a couple from Wisconsin. They gave me a good life. They loved me." She paused. "But they never told me I was adopted. I found out when they died. When I went through their papers. When I found this bracelet in a box with my original birth certificate." She reached into her purse again. She pulled out a document. Yellowed with age. Creased from being folded and unfolded hundreds of times. The name of the mother was listed as Oprah Gail Winfrey. Age, 14. Oprah stared at the document. Her hands were shaking so violently she could barely hold it. "I'll look for you," Diane continued. "For years I looked. I hired private investigators. I searched records. I did DNA tests. Everything pointed to you. But I could not be sure. Not completely. Not until I saw you in person. Not until I felt what I felt the moment I walked into the studio." She leaned forward. "You're my mother," she said. "I know it. I have always known it. Somewhere deep inside, I have always known." Oprah could not speak. 43 years of grief. 43 years of carrying a loss she had never fully processed. 43 years of wondering what her daughter would have been like. And now that daughter was sitting in front of her. Alive. Real. Whole. The producers had cut to commercial. They had no idea what to do. This was not in any playbook. This was not in any contingency plan. This was simply unprecedented. But Oprah waved them off. "Keep rolling," she said. "Do not stop. The world needs to see this." She turned back to Diane, and she asked the question that had haunted her for 4 decades. "Why did they tell me you died?" Share and subscribe. Make sure this story is never forgotten. Diane's face twisted with pain. "I have spent years trying to understand that," she said. "From what I have been able to piece together, it was a decision made by adults who thought they were protecting everyone." She paused. "You were 14 years old," she continued. "You were already facing so much. The pregnancy had been kept secret from most people. When I was born premature and struggling, they thought I would not survive. And they decided it would be easier for you to believe I had died than to know I was alive somewhere else." Oprah shook her head. "Easier?" She whispered. "There is nothing easy about believing your child is dead." "I know," Diane said. "And I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for all the years you grieved. I am sorry for all the years I did not know. I am sorry for everyone who made decisions that kept us apart." She reached out and took Oprah's hands. "But I am here now," she said, "and I do not want to waste another day." Oprah looked at their joined hands. Hers were smooth and manicured. Diane's were worn from years of work. But they fit together perfectly, like they had been waiting 43 years to find each other. "Tell me about your life," Oprah said. Tell me everything. Diane smiled through her tears. I'm a nurse, she said. I have been for 35 years. I married young. My husband passed away 6 years ago. Pancreatic cancer. We had 2 children together. They're grown now. Successful. Kind. They gave me 3 grandchildren. She pulled out her phone. She showed Oprah photographs. Her son, her daughter, her grandchildren. Oprah's son. Oprah's daughter. Oprah's grandchildren. A family she never knew she had. They have your eyes, Oprah whispered. Your son. He has your eyes. He has your eyes, Diane corrected gently. We both do. Oprah looked at her, really looked at her, and she saw it. The shape of her face, the curve of her smile, the light in her eyes. This was her daughter, her living, breathing daughter, the child she had mourned for 43 years, the loss she had transformed into drive, the grief she had channeled into helping millions of others. She was sitting right in front of her. How did you survive? Oprah asked. After you were born? You said you were premature. Diane nodded. I was 2 months early, she said. I weighed just over 3 pounds. They did not think I would make it through the first night. But I did. And then the second night. And then the third. By the time they realized I was going to survive, you had already been told I was gone. She paused. They made a decision not to correct that story. They thought you were too young, too fragile. They thought it would be better for everyone if you moved on. Oprah's jaw tightened. That was not their decision to make, she said. I know, Diane said, and I am not here to defend them. Most of them are gone now anyway. Whatever their reasons, whatever their intentions, the result was the same. We lost 43 years. She squeezed Oprah's hands. But we have today, she said, and tomorrow, and however many days we have left. She looked into Oprah's eyes. I did not come here asking for anything, she said. I do not want money. I do not want fame. I do not want to disrupt your life. I just wanted you to know that I exist, that I survived, that the child you thought you lost has been out there this whole time, living a life, thinking about you, wondering about you. She paused. And loving you, she said, even before I knew for certain who you were. I loved you, because you gave me life, because whatever happened after, you carried me. You gave birth to me. You gave me the chance to exist. Oprah pulled Diane into an embrace. They held each other on that stage. 2 women separated by time and circumstance and decisions made by others. 2 women finally reunited. 2 women who had spent 43 years incomplete. Now whole. The producers eventually cut back from commercial, but they did not know what to broadcast. Oprah made the decision for them. She looked at the camera. I need to tell you all something, she said. Her voice was raw, something I have never spoken about publicly, something I have carried in private for most of my life. She took a breath. When I was 14 years old, I gave birth to a baby girl, she said. I was told she died shortly after birth. I grieve that loss. I have carried it with me every day since. It shaped who I became. It fueled my drive. It made me determined to help others because I could not help my own child. She looked at Diane. But today I learned that I was told a lie, she said. Today I learned that my daughter survived, that she was adopted by a loving family, that she grew up to be a nurse who has spent 35 years helping others, that she raised 2 children of her own, that she has 3 grandchildren. Her voice broke. Today I learned that I am a grandmother, she said. A grandmother. The audience erupted. Not in applause. In something deeper. A collective gasp. A collective witness to something miraculous. The episode did not continue as planned. For the next 2 hours, Oprah and Diane sat on that stage and talked. They shared stories. They looked at photographs. They discovered the ways their lives had paralleled even while apart. They both loved to read. They both rose early every morning. They both had struggled with their weight. They both had devoted their lives to helping others. They both had felt their entire lives like something was missing. Something they could never name. Something they now understood. Each other. The episode aired 1 week later. It became the most watched episode in television history. Over 150 million people saw it. The story was covered by every major news outlet in the world. But for Oprah and Diane, the numbers did not matter. What mattered was what came next. Oprah flew to Wisconsin to meet her grandchildren. 3 children who had grown up not knowing their grandmother was one of the most famous women in the world. 3 children who accepted her immediately. Not as a celebrity, as family. Diane moved closer to Chicago. Not into Oprah's home. She wanted to maintain her independence. But close enough that they could see each other regularly. Close enough that 43 years of lost time could begin to be recovered. They established a tradition. Every Sunday morning, they have breakfast together. Just the two of them. No cameras. No publicity. No agenda. Just a mother and daughter. Learning each other. Loving each other. Making up for lost time. The hospital bracelet now sits in a glass case in Oprah's home. Next to it is the original birth certificate. Next to that is a photograph of Diane as a newborn. A photograph Oprah never knew existed. A photograph of the daughter she thought she had lost. Alive. Fighting. Surviving. Even then, there's a plaque beneath the case. It reads, "Some losses are not losses at all. They're just delays. And some reunions are worth 43 years of waiting." Oprah has spoken about the reunion many times since. She says it changed her understanding of grief. She used to think grief was about accepting loss. Now, she knows grief is also about holding space for possibility. For the chance, however small, that what was lost might be found. That what was taken might be returned. That what was broken might be healed. She says she spent 43 years grieving a death that never happened. And now she gets to spend the rest of her life celebrating a life she almost missed. Diane continues to work as a nurse. She refused Oprah's offers of early retirement. "Helping people is what I do," she said. "It is who I am. That has not changed just because my mother is famous." But she did agree to join the board of a foundation Oprah established in her honor. The Diane Foster Foundation for Adoptee Reunification. It helps adult adoptees search for their birth families. It provides DNA testing, legal support, and counseling services. It has reunited over 4,000 families in its first 2 years. Because Oprah knows now what she did not know before. There are thousands of Dianes out there. Thousands of children separated from their birth parents. Thousands of mothers and fathers who were told their children were gone. Thousands of reunions waiting to happen. And sometimes all it takes is a faded hospital bracelet. A name that is almost illegible. A woman brave enough to walk into a room and hold it up. And a world willing to witness what happens next. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss another story like this. Because there are more reunions waiting to happen. More secrets waiting to be revealed. More families waiting to be whole. And somewhere out there, someone is holding a bracelet. A photograph. A document. A piece of evidence that could change everything. Maybe it is time to use it. Maybe it is time to find out. Maybe it is time to stop grieving what might have been and start celebrating what still could be. That is what Oprah learned. That is what Diane taught her. That is what 43 years of waiting finally revealed. Some stories do not end with loss. Some stories end with found.